an entire Amish family of 7 disappeared from their quiet Pennsylvania farm in 1992. They left behind only a handwritten note saying they were visiting relatives for the weekend, but they never returned. A full decade passed with no trace. Then, during a somber remembrance gathering, the community uncovered a chilling detail hidden in plain sight, one that had gone unnoticed for 10 years and could finally reveal what really happened. As the morning sun filtered through the wooden slats of Levi Lapp's farmhouse in New Holland, Pennsylvania, it marked a day the community observed every year, not in celebration, but in quiet remembrance. 10 long years had gone by since his brother Aaron, sister-in-law Miriam, and their 5 children, Eli, Michael, Sarah, Ruth, and little Daisy, vanished without warning. The only clue left behind was a single note resting on their kitchen table. Levi had rearranged his living room before dawn. The usual furniture was replaced by rows of plain chairs facing a simple table now moved in from the kitchen. The coffee table had been taken to the barn to make room. By 8 a.m., neighbors began arriving in silence. The men wore their traditional black coats and wide-brimmed hats. The women were dressed in modest dark dresses with white prayer coverings. For 2 hours, hymns were sung in Pennsylvania Dutch, memories were shared, and Minister Yoder spoke about having faith when answers never come. As the clock inched past 10, most had quietly left. Only a few remained: family, elders, and close friends who had known Aaron since boyhood. Levi scanned the familiar faces. His cousin Samuel sat beside his wife Rebecca, both aged in a way only sorrow can deepen. Mary Stoltzfus, once Miriam's best friend, dabbed her eyes. Joseph King, whose land bordered Aaron's, sat silently with folded hands. "Shall we?" Levi asked, nodding toward the kitchen table they had brought into the center of the room. Everyone moved closer, forming a tight circle. On the table lay items that once belonged to the missing family: photographs, letters, and at the center, the note that started it all, sealed in a protective sleeve. Levi lifted it carefully. He knew every word by heart. It read, in Aaron's neat handwriting, "Gone for the weekend. Visiting family for church matters. Will return Monday. Don't worry about the animals. Neighbor boys will help." "We read this note every year," Mary said quietly. "And every year I ask, what kind of church matters take a whole family away without telling anyone where they're going?" "And what relatives?" Samuel added. "We're their family. We checked with everyone, from Ohio to Indiana, even up into Ontario. No one had seen them." Esther, another community member, picked up a photo taken just days before the disappearance. It showed the entire family standing on their porch, Aaron in his straw hat, Miriam holding baby Daisy, the other children lined up by height, smiling. Behind them, laundry hung on the line. "Such beautiful children," she whispered. Eli would be 23 now, Michael, 21, Sarah, 19, Ruth, 14, and Daisy. Her voice trembled. She'd be 10. Levi reached for a manila folder containing police documents. The original investigation had been short-lived, stalled by the Amish community's hesitance to involve outside authorities. After only a week, with no signs of struggle or crime, the case was quietly closed, ruled a voluntary disappearance. "We thought we were doing the right thing," said Joseph King. "We don't turn to the English police unless absolutely necessary. We believed they would return." "But they didn't," Rebecca whispered. "And now, year after year, we're left wondering if we should have done more." Then something shifted. Daniel Zook, another member of the group, picked up one of the police photographs, a clearer version of the same porch image Esther had held. He stared at it for a long moment, then turned it toward the group. "Levi," he said slowly, "your brother's family was supposed to leave that morning, right?" "Yes, that's what the note said," Levi replied, puzzled. "Then why?" Daniel asked, pointing to the background. "Is the laundry still wet on the line?" Everyone leaned in. Sure enough, the clothes hanging behind the family appeared damp. shadows of moisture still clinging to the hems. No Amish wife would do a full wash the morning they're leaving for 3 days, Daniel said. Rain, bugs, sunlight, it would ruin everything. Mary let out a soft gasp. Is that a vest? It looks too new, too bright. And just like that, a forgotten photograph became a silent witness, holding a clue they had missed for 10 long years. As Levi squinted at the photograph, something caught his eye, a flash of color that didn't belong. Among the familiar deep blues and blacks of typical Amish clothing was a piece of fabric in a bright yellow-green hue. His breath hitched. That wasn't a child's vest. It was a police vest. Police? Esther echoed, her voice suddenly sharp. Yes, Levi said slowly, memory stirring. Officer Brenner, Paul Brenner. He used to help Aaron a lot. A kind Englishman, helped with barn raisings, fixed fences. He respected our ways. Joseph nodded solemnly. Always polite. Never tried to push his world into ours. But why would his vest be hanging in Miriam's laundry? Levi asked aloud, now staring hard at the photograph. There it was, unmistakably, the word police, partially visible on the high-visibility fabric. I don't remember him ever asking for it back, Levi added. Even after Aaron vanished and the case went cold, Officer Brenner would stop by now and then, mostly to check on us, on Mother, but he never mentioned the vest. Levi's voice softened. My Ribka, may she rest peacefully. She packed away most of Aaron and Miriam's things once it became clear they weren't coming back. Maybe the vest is still among their things. Esther set the photograph down with trembling fingers. We should speak to him, she whispered. To Officer Brenner. It might mean nothing, but after 10 years, anything small might finally matter. Mother, Levi said gently, what could he possibly do now? The case was set aside long ago. We all chose to stop pushing, to accept what happened. But we never found peace with it, Mary interrupted. We say we accepted it, but the truth is, we gather each year because none of us can truly let go. Maybe, she added, just maybe, God's will is for us to finally start asking the questions we were too afraid to ask. Levi gave a slow nod. Then I'll find the vest. If nothing else, I should return it to Officer Brenner, and when I do, maybe I'll mention what we noticed in that photo, the laundry, the timing. The others murmured agreement. They spent the next half hour going through the remaining keepsakes, Aaron's favorite hymn book, Miriam's old quilting thimble, children's drawings, a corn husk doll that had belonged to Sarah. Each item passed from hand to hand, each one accompanied by quiet memories or whispered prayers. As noon approached, the gathering began to break up. One by one, family and friends stood, offered familiar words of comfort, and embraced Levi and Esther. We'll see you Sunday, Samuel said, adjusting his black hat. Thank you for hosting this year, Rebecca added. It feels right remembering them here, not just in the meeting house. It was Mother's idea, Levi replied, glancing toward Esther. She thought being in Aaron's home might bring us closer to the truth. Soon, the buggies rolled down the gravel road, leaving only Levi and his mother behind. Esther began gently collecting the photos and documents. I'll help put the furniture back, she offered. No, Mother, Levi said quietly. You rest. I'll take you home first, then handle everything later. From the kitchen drawer, he pulled a small ring of brass keys. One belonged to Aaron's house. The other unlocked a second farmhouse on a parcel Aaron had purchased just months before he vanished. The keys felt heavy and cold in his hand, untouched for too long. They walked to his buggy. Levi's only nod to modernity allowed by their order was a modest vehicle used for his carpentry business. He helped his mother into the car and drove her the short distance to her small home. But the image of that vest hanging on the line wouldn't leave his mind. It didn't belong. It had never belonged. After dropping Esther off, Levi turned the car toward Aaron's old property. The drive was only 10 minutes, but felt much longer. He hadn't visited in some time. The emptiness of the place always weighed on him. As he pulled into the driveway, now nearly reclaimed by weeds, he noticed how tall the maple tree had grown. Aaron had planted it the spring before he vanished. Now its limbs brushed the roof with each gust of wind. The key turned stiffly in the lock. Inside, the air was thick with dust and silence. Light outlines on the walls marked where family pictures once hung. Ripka had packed away most of the personal items after the first year. Hope had faded too fast. Levi started his search with the hallway closet. Nothing but mouse droppings and bent hangers. The pantry where Miriam stored preserves was bare. Upstairs, each creaking step groaned beneath his boots. The master bedroom door stood slightly open. The bed had no mattress, just a bare frame, but at the foot of it sat a familiar wooden chest. Levi knelt beside it, heart tightening. The lid groaned on old hinges. Inside, packed with quiet care, were the things Ripka had decided were too important to give away. And maybe, just maybe, the answers were waiting there too. It was the kind of object too painful to look at every day, yet too meaningful to throw away. Inside the wooden chest, Levi found what Ripka had quietly preserved. Aaron's old work shirt, still shaped by his shoulders, a child's wooden toy horse, its edges worn smooth from tiny hands, and there, folded neatly on top, was the fluorescent police vest. Levi lifted it gently. The word police glowed across the back in reflective lettering, and on the front, a stitched name tag read, P. Brenner. It was clean. Miriam had clearly washed and dried it before placing it here, all those years ago. He closed the lid with care, the vest still in his hands, and stood in silence. Pulling out his cell phone, one of the few modern tools allowed for his furniture business, he scrolled through his contacts until he found Officer Paul Brenner's number. They had exchanged it years earlier during a minor vandalism case at Levi's shop. He let the phone ring. Once, twice, 3 times, then voicemail. Brenner's familiar voice invited him to leave a message, but Levi didn't speak. Something about explaining this discovery into a machine didn't feel right. He thought about calling the station instead, but the idea of trying to explain himself to a dispatcher, getting passed around departments, didn't sit well either. His people didn't handle important matters with phone trees. This needed to be done the old way, face to face. Levi tucked the vest under his arm and headed downstairs. At the front door, something made him pause. A memory. Years ago, Aaron had mentioned pressure from outsiders, developers trying to buy the land. It had seemed distant back then, like idle talk. Curious, Levi walked around to the back porch. The fields were still there, fences in place, trees untouched. If there had been plans, they'd gone nowhere. 10 years and nothing had changed. Just quiet fields, the same as they'd always been. He walked back to the car and placed the vest carefully on the passenger seat, making a mental note to check the other farmhouse soon. These places wouldn't stay untouched forever. The New Holland police station stood at the town's edge, a modest brick building with an American flag waving out front. Levi parked, stepped inside with the vest still under his arm. The lobby smelled of coffee and floor wax. A young officer sat at the front desk. "Good afternoon," Levi said, approaching. "I'm looking for Officer Paul Brenner. Is he available?" The officer, nameplate reading Jenkins, looked up from his computer. "Brenner? He's out in the field. Been gone since around noon. I can take a message?" Levi shifted the vest in his hands. "It's a personal matter. I've got something that belongs to him, from quite a while back." "Could be a while," Jenkins said. "He might not be back till the end of shift. Want me to have him call you?" "No, thank you," Levi replied. "I'd rather speak with him in person. I'll come back." "Suit yourself," Jenkins shrugged. "He's usually here mornings." Levi nodded and stepped back outside. Sitting in his car, he considered his next move. He still needed to check the other property anyway. He could always swing back by later or return tomorrow. Driving deeper into the countryside, past familiar fences and quiet fields, he approached the old Yoder place and immediately noticed something wasn't right. Two men in dark uniforms were standing near a black truck, speaking with Jakob Yoder, who was clearly upset, backing away with his hands raised defensively. Levi pulled over and got out. As he approached, he heard the argument more clearly. "I told you yesterday and the day before," Jakob was saying. "This land is not for sale. It has belonged to my family for generations." "Times change, Mr. Yoder," one of the men replied. His uniform looked official, but wrong. Dark navy or black. No patches, no name, no badge. "The offer is more than generous. You could buy better land elsewhere." "There is no better land than what the Lord gave us to tend," Jakob replied, voice steady. The second man stepped in, more aggressive now. "You Amish think you can just sit on prime land forever, doing nothing for the economy, for progress?" "Is there a problem here?" Levi called out, picking up his pace. All three men turned. Jakob's face flooded with relief. The other two exchanged glances, tense, calculating. "No problem at all," the first man said smoothly. "Just a friendly business conversation." "Doesn't look like Mr. Yoder is interested in your offer," Levi said calmly as he stepped up beside Jakob. "He's asked you to leave." The second man's jaw tensed. "And you are?" "A neighbor," Levi replied. "And someone who's ready to call the police if you don't respect this man's right to be left alone." He slowly pulled out his phone, holding it where they could see. The two men exchanged glances. The first reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and flicked it to the ground near Jakob's feet. "Think about it, Mr. Yoder," he said. "We'll be back." They walked to their truck without rushing, clearly trying to show they weren't intimidated. As they drove off, Levi memorized the license plate. No logos, no markings. Just a black truck and two men who didn't belong. "Thank you, Levi," Jakob said once they were gone, bending to pick up the card. "They've been here every day this week. Same talk, same pressure. What do they want with your land? They talk about progress, development, say we should sell and move somewhere better, but they never say what the project is, just vague promises." Jakob paused, troubled. "You know, something like this happened years ago. Different faces, but same push to sell. Same talk of plans that never made sense. And then it all stopped. Suddenly." Levi felt a chill despite the sun on his back. 10 years ago? Jakob nodded slowly. Maybe a few months before Aaron disappeared. He had people coming around too. Said he was worried. Spoke to the bishop about it. Then stopped talking altogether. Levi's thoughts were racing. Did these men say who they worked for? Jakob handed him the card. Plain white. No name, no logo. Just a phone number and the words, Land Development Associates. "I'm actually on my way to speak with Officer Brenner," Levi said, "about another matter, but I'll bring this up. He's always been fair with our community. Maybe he can look into whether these men have any right to harass you." "I'd appreciate it," Jakob said. "Not sure what the law can do if they're only asking, but it wouldn't hurt for the police to be aware." Levi looked down the road. "Just be careful. Don't be alone when they come back. Have someone with you." "I will, and thank you again, Levi. Truly." Levi nodded and headed back to his car, but the unease followed him. As he continued toward Aaron's other property, the feeling only grew, like something old and buried had just shifted beneath the surface. The entrance to Aaron's land was marked by two worn stone pillars. As Levi turned in, he noticed a police car idling across the road, driver's window down, engine humming, and in the driver's seat, sunglasses on, sat someone he hadn't seen in a long time, Officer Paul Brenner. Levi pulled over, stepped out, and crossed the quiet road. Brenner pulled off his sunglasses, his expression softening with recognition. Levi Lapp, good to see you. How have you been? I'm well, thank you, Levi said. Didn't expect to find you out here. This part of town doesn't usually require senior officers on patrol. Brenner chuckled. Just passing through. Saw the old farmhouse. Hard to believe it's been 10 years. I still think about that family. Levi nodded, moved by the remark. That's kind of you. Actually, I was trying to find you earlier today. I went to the station. Oh, Brenner's brow lifted slightly. I found something at Aaron's house. Levi walked back to his car, opened the door, and returned with the vest. It was packed away with some of their things. I believe this belongs to you. Brenner took it slowly, studying the fluorescent fabric. He turned it over, saw the patch on the chest, P. Brenner, and let out a soft, surprised breath. Huh, you're right. I'd forgotten all about this. How did it end up there? Levi asked, watching him carefully. Brenner hesitated, thinking. It was the morning they left. I stopped by to talk with Aaron. Miriam invited me in for breakfast. Wouldn't take no for an answer. You know how she was. Levi smiled faintly. That sounds like her. Well, I knocked over a bowl of soup like an idiot, right onto my vest. She said it would stain if I didn't wash it right away. Insisted on taking it. And I suppose you just forgot to come back for it? Levi asked, voice neutral. I guess I did, Brenner said, rubbing the back of his neck. It was a hectic day. I didn't think twice about it. What were you discussing with Aaron that morning? Levi asked, watching his face. Something flickered in Brenner's eyes, a hesitation, maybe nervousness. It was something about neighborhood safety. There were rumors about development out here. People were worried, that sort of thing. Development, Levi repeated, leaning in just slightly. The silence that followed wasn't long, but it spoke volumes. Aaron once mentioned something, Levi recalled. Private developers wanting to build a road through the back of his land. Brenner nodded, seeming to relax slightly. That's right. There was a company pushing hard to buy up several properties. We got involved when the community grew concerned. I was probably checking in with Aaron that morning, making sure no one was pressuring him. Levi thought of Jakob Yoder's anxious face just moments earlier. Speaking of pressure, I just came from Jakob's farm. 2 men in unmarked dark uniforms showed up. No company name, no ID. They've been harassing him all week, trying to make him sell. Brenner's face darkened. No badges? No logos? Nothing. And when I mentioned calling the police, they backed off. But they said they'd be back. Levi reached into his pocket and handed over a plain business card. They left this. No address, no names, just a number. Land Development Associates. Brenner took the card, looked it over with a frown, then handed it back. I'll follow up. I'll visit Jakob myself. We can't let anyone intimidate our Amish neighbors. I appreciate that, Levi said. The community's always trusted you. Brenner looked like he was about to respond when his attention shifted suddenly, past Levi's shoulder. His posture changed, alert and focused. Levi turned to see a familiar black truck approaching, the same one from Jakob's farm. Listen, Brenner said, voice low as he started his patrol car. I'll speak to Jakob and we'll talk more about your brother's case soon. There might be more to connect here than I realized, but right now, I have another meeting I can't miss. Of course, Levi replied, stepping back. Thanks again for everything, and thank you for bringing back the vest, Brenner said, pulling out onto the road. Levi watched as the police car discreetly tailed the black truck down the quiet road. It looked like Brenner was already on the case. Levi turned back onto the gravel driveway of Aaron's other farmhouse. Weeds had crept through the stones, and the old for sale sign leaned tiredly to one side, sun-faded, almost forgotten. He had posted it 5 years after the disappearance. In all that time, only a few had come to look. None made an offer. The land was beautiful. 40 acres of fertile farmland, a solid barn, and the 2-story house Aaron had worked so hard to keep up. But Amish buyers rarely needed more land, and non-Amish outsiders often hesitated to live among such a private, close-knit community. Levi unlocked the door and stepped into silence. Dust hung in the air, catching beams of afternoon light like snow. He found cleaning supplies still tucked in the pantry, miraculously usable, and began to tidy the kitchen. He was sweeping mouse droppings from the corners when he heard a car outside. A sleek, unfamiliar sedan had pulled into the drive. A man in business clothes stepped out, studied the old sign, then walked toward the house. Levi met him at the door. "Good afternoon," the man said, flashing a polite, practiced smile. "I noticed the sign out front. Is this place still available?" "Yes," Levi said cautiously. "I manage the property for the family." "Excellent. I'm quite interested. May I take a look around?" Levi stepped aside. "Of course, but I'll be honest. It needs work. The house has been empty for years." The man walked the rooms quickly, not really examining the house, but rather scanning the windows, checking angles, looking outward more than in. "What's your asking price?" he finally asked. Levi named the figure he'd set years ago, fair for the land and the buildings. The man let out a short laugh. "For a place in this condition, I'll give you half." "That's far below the land value," Levi replied calmly. "You're surrounded by Amish farms," the man said. "Limited growth, limited infrastructure, half is generous." Levi hesitated. The offer was low, almost insulting, but the property had sat idle for so long. Each month brought more decay, more cost. "I could maybe lower it 15%, Levi offered. "I'll meet you halfway," the man interrupted, already pulling a folded map from his jacket. "Let me show you my plans." He laid the map across the dusty kitchen counter. Levi's eyes were drawn to the familiar red outline around the property, but something else caught his attention. A circled area deep in the northern mountains, marked with strange symbols Levi didn't recognize. "What's this?" he asked, pointing to the marking. The man's eyes flicked to the spot, and quickly, he folded that section of the map under. "Unrelated," he said with a small shrug. "Now, about the house. I see it as a great opportunity for a country getaway, maybe a bed and breakfast. Tourists love Amish country." He kept talking, but Levi had stopped listening. That brief glimpse of the mountain marking unsettled him. Something about it felt wrong, like it was connected to something he couldn't yet name. Something about the deal kept tugging at Levi's thoughts. He couldn't quite explain why, but he felt it in his gut. Still, after years of silence and no serious buyers, the offer, while lower than he hoped, was enough to pay the overdue taxes and leave something for his mother. After some tense back and forth, they landed on a number somewhere between insult and relief. "Excellent," the man said, reaching into his jacket for a business card. "Let's head to my office. We can finalize everything right away. Can you follow me now?" Levi hesitated. The pace felt rushed, too clean, too eager, but 5 years of waiting wore heavily on him. "All right," he said finally. "Lead the way." He locked the farmhouse and got in his car, trailing the buyer's sedan along the winding rural road. Then, around a bend where cornfields once stood, a modern glass and steel structure emerged, stark and out of place against the countryside. The building stood alone, surrounded by an oversized parking lot, far too large for anything out here. Levi pulled in beside the sedan. "Impressive building," he commented as they walked toward the front doors. Though privately, he found the architecture sterile, cold. "We believe in making a statement," the man replied. "A professional space for serious ventures." Inside, the space was sleek and quiet. Marble floors, brushed metal, minimalist decor. At the front desk sat a woman in a dark uniform. Levi froze for a moment. Her attire looked eerily similar to the two men who'd confronted Jakob Yoder, dark, blank, without insignia or name. "This is Mr. Lapp," the man told her. "He needs a visitor registration." "Of course," she said, smoothly sliding a clipboard toward Levi. "I'll need your license and signature. Here, here, and here. I'll prep the contracts," the man added, glancing at his watch. "My office is just down the hall." He turned and walked away. Levi fumbled for his ID, unaccustomed to such formalities. His people sealed agreements with trust, not paperwork. As the woman typed his information into the system, Levi's eyes wandered toward the wide windows behind her. Outside, he spotted a black truck pulling into the rear lot. Behind it, not far, came a patrol car, Officer Brenner, but neither vehicle stopped. Instead, they continued slowly up the gravel mountain road that curved behind the building. "Ma'am," Levi asked, "what's up that road behind the property?" She barely looked up. "I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask Mr. Davidson." "Davidson? The gentleman buying the house?" "Yes." She returned to her screen, not inviting more questions. Trying to pass the time, Levi drifted toward a model displayed in the corner, a full architectural miniature of the region. He leaned in, and his heart dropped. The landscape was instantly familiar. The valley, the hills, the winding roads that had shaped his entire life. Only, everything was wrong. Where Amish farms stood now, there were commercial plazas. Where barns had stood for generations, now parking garages and identical homes. His family's property was labeled. So was Jakob's, so was Aaron's. The entire Amish community erased. And on the mountainside, a single undeveloped section, a hilltop structure marked with a small plaque. Amish Heritage Memorial, honoring the legacy of Pennsylvania's plain people. Legacy, not life, not presence, memory, as if they were already gone. Levi's blood ran cold. He remembered the buyer's map, the same mountain, the same spot, just briefly shown before being folded away. The receptionist's voice broke through. "Sir, I need you to sign these forms." Levi turned slowly from the model. "Actually," he said, stepping back toward the exit, "I just remembered something urgent. Please let Mr. Davidson know I'll have to reschedule." Her eyes narrowed. "He's waiting for you. The paperwork is ready." "I'll return later. Tomorrow at the latest." She picked up the phone without another word, but Levi was already through the door. He rushed to his car, started the engine, and peeled out of the lot. Behind him, he saw her in the window, still on the phone, her voice tense, urgent. The road up the mountain was rough, clearly not meant for regular use. Potholes and patches of gravel made his car rattle as it climbed higher through the trees. Sunlight filtered through thick leaves, flickering across the windshield in sharp, shifting beams. He didn't know exactly what he'd find, but something told him everything he needed to know about his brother, about that vest, and about what was really happening here, was waiting at the top of that mountain. And someone didn't want it found. The mountain road grew steeper and lonelier with every mile. Levi's car groaned in low gear, trees leaning in so tightly overhead they formed a living tunnel. After nearly an hour of climbing, no houses, no traffic, only the occasional utility pole, he finally crested a ridge. A clearing opened ahead. Behind a temporary chain-link fence sat Officer Brenner's patrol car, nose to nose with heavy machinery. A bulldozer, an excavator, stacks of lumber and stone. The half-built structure looked vaguely Amish, but with showy peaks and decorative trim no plain carpenter would ever add. It was tourism's idea of a meeting house. Levi eased into a brush-covered turnout, killed the engine, and slipped into the trees. Keeping low, he could see Brenner speaking with the same two men who'd threatened Jakob Yoder. "Memorial House will be perfect," one of the men said, his voice carrying on the breeze. Tourists love a good nostalgia story, how a simple way of life just couldn't survive modern times. Very marketable. The build can move ahead once the last families agree to relocate, the second man added. Or can be persuaded, the first said with a shrug. Brenner nodded. With my reports, no one at the department will question a thing. Levi's stomach churned. He spotted a spare hard hat and safety vest on a nearby fence post, slipped them on, and ducked through a gap. From a distance, he might pass for a worker. At the far side of the foundation, one man gestured to a backhoe operator. "Dig here, just a meter." The bucket clawed at the soil twice, then stopped. Something pale jutted from the dirt. The men jumped down, lifted a long bone, undeniably human, and handed it to Brenner. He turned it in his hands, expression unreadable, then dropped it back into the hole. "The whole family's here," the first man said with a grin. "Plus a few who got too curious over the years. And once we clear the rest out, by fear or worse, this entire valley will be ours. Shops, housing, attractions. Something profitable for a change." Levi's vision blurred. Aaron, Miriam, the children, buried here, beneath a monument to their memory. He backed away, heart hammering. At the fence, he ditched hat and vest and sprinted for his car. No signal. He drove downhill until 2 bars flickered on his phone, then pulled over and punched 911. 911, what's your emergency? "My name is Levi Lapp," he said, voice shaking but firm. "I just witnessed human remains and a corrupt officer involved with developers who killed my brother's entire family 10 years ago. Send units to the construction site on the mountain road. Dig where they were digging. You'll find proof." The dispatcher's tone sharpened. "Units are en route. State police have been notified. Stay where you are." Levi waited, engine idling, eyes fixed uphill. Within minutes, sirens wailed, cruisers streaking past him toward the truth buried at the mountaintop. Levi followed the police back up the mountain. When they arrived at the construction site, the calm was gone. Organized chaos had broken loose. Uniformed officers moved with urgency across the grounds. Brenner stepped out of the partially built structure and froze. His expression went pale the moment he saw the patrol cars. Meanwhile, the 2 developers tried to make a break for their truck, but Levi quickly pulled his car into their path, blocking their escape. Brenner approached, still clinging to authority. "Levi, move your vehicle, now." Levi stepped out. "I saw everything," he said clearly. "The bones, my brother's family, maybe more, and you helped cover it up." "That's absurd," Brenner said, turning to the other officers. "This man is grieving. He's confused." But the senior officer, a state police sergeant, stepped forward. "Officer Brenner, we need you to stand aside. These are serious allegations, and we're launching a formal investigation." "This is a misunderstanding," Brenner insisted. "He's emotional. He's imagining things." "Then you won't mind if we take a look around," the sergeant said firmly. Officers moved in. Levi pointed across the site. "That pit over there, that's where they dug. The remains are in there." 2 officers jumped into the shallow trench. Moments later, one called out, "Sergeant, we have confirmed human remains." Brenner turned sharply, bolting for the trees. A gunshot cracked through the air. "Don't move!" an officer shouted. Brenner froze mid-stride. The developers, already halfway to their truck, also stopped in their tracks. Weapons were drawn, not aimed, but ready. One by one, Brenner and the 2 men dropped to their knees, hands raised, and were cuffed without resistance. Brenner said nothing, face drained of color. The developers shouted protests, demanded lawyers, but the officers didn't flinch. Levi turned to the sergeant. "There's more. The man who tried to buy my farm, Davidson, he's part of this. He's down at the office building near the mountain base." "We'll take care of it," the sergeant said. "But we'll also need you to come in and give a full statement." The convoy of police cars wound down the mountain, lights flashing silently now, no sirens. At the sleek, modern office below, more cruisers pulled in. Through the glass walls, Levi saw officers moving inside. Davidson was being cuffed. The receptionist looked stunned as officers gathered papers and devices. As they prepared to leave, Levi turned to look up the slope. Somewhere in the ground behind those trees, his family had been hidden for 10 long years, but now they had been found. At the New Holland police station, the scene was unlike anything the quiet town had seen before. Officers moved with purpose, evidence bags in hand. From a side window, Levi watched as Brenner was escorted inside, his badge and uniform now twisted symbols of betrayal. The two developers followed, no longer smug but silent. Davidson came last, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face pale and shaken. A woman in a gray blazer stepped forward. "Mr. Lapp," she said, offering a calm hand. "I'm Detective Sarah Chen, State Police. I'll be handling the investigation going forward. Would you come with me, please?" She led him into a small, windowless room, just a table and 2 chairs. A recorder sat quietly in the center. "I know this has been overwhelming," she said gently, "but I need you to start at the beginning. Take your time." And Levi did. He started with the remembrance service, the photo, the vest, visiting Aaron's house, what he saw at Jacob's farm, his encounter with Brenner, the attempted sale, the building on the mountain, the bones. Chen listened, taking notes and occasionally asking for detail. When he finished, she folded her notebook. "Mr. Lapp," she said, "can you tell me more about the original investigation 10 years ago?" Levi hesitated. It was short. Brenner led it. He said he was assigned to Amish affairs, asked questions, looked around, but we didn't press. It's not our way to involve outside authorities. Most people believed Aaron left voluntarily, maybe with family, maybe for some reason we weren't told. But he never mentioned plans to leave? Not really, Levy said. But he had been under pressure from developers. He owned more land than most in our community. He'd inherited from our father, bought more over the years. He was generous, but also significant. Chen gave a tight nod. We found something in Davidson's office, a journal, very detailed. It included names, timelines, even logs of who cooperated and who didn't. Levi leaned in, heart heavy. It mentioned Brenner? He asked quietly. Chen nodded. More than that. He orchestrated it. He was the one who initiated the kidnapping. He used the trust your community gave him. According to the journal, he'd been on their payroll for years, feeding them info about who might sell, who was vulnerable, who could be isolated. Levi stared at the floor. All those times we thanked him, he whispered, trusted him. He closed his eyes. But now, finally, the truth was no longer buried. The betrayal cut deepest because Brenner had shared their tables, helped raise their barns, even learned their children's names. Levi felt the weight of it as he spoke. The officer we trusted most, he whispered. He broke bread with us, all while hiding this. Detective Chen's voice was soft. I know it feels impossible, Mr. Lapp, but we'll get the full truth. Levi swallowed. Do you know what happened to my brother's family? Based on the journal and what we recovered, Chen said, we believe the developers lured Aaron and Miriam to that mountain site, years before construction began. Your brother refused their final offer and they silenced the entire family, children included. We'll confirm with DNA, but yours is the only Amish disappearance in this region over the last decade. Levi shook his head. They gained nothing. No land changed hands after Aaron vanished. Years of planning, for nothing, and we never knew. You're not to blame, Chen said firmly. Responsibility lies with those men, not with you or your community. Levi exhaled. Sometimes our willingness to accept fate blinds us to evil. We should have pressed harder 10 years ago instead of trusting Brenner's word. A knock at the door. An officer peeked in. Detective, Mrs. Esther Lapp is here. Levi's mother stood in the hallway, bonnet askew, fear and hope mingling in her eyes. The moment she saw her son's face, comprehension dawned. No, no. Her knees buckled. Levi caught her as she sagged. They're just bones now, Mom, he murmured, voice breaking. They clung to each other under fluorescent lights while officers steered clear, offering quiet space for their grief. After a time, Detective Chen approached. The forensics team has preliminary findings. If you're ready. They walked to a small family room, softer chairs, tissue boxes everywhere. Dr. Martinez, lab coat crisp, greeted them with gentle professionalism. The remains are roughly 10 years old, she explained. We found adult male and female bones, plus children of varying ages, matching your missing family. We'll need DNA from both of you to confirm. Esther made a sound that was half sob, half moan. Levi squeezed her hand. Dr. Martinez added, If you wish, we can show you some of the items we recovered. In a sterile evidence room, tagged bones lay on a metal table alongside scraps of fabric, a child's small shoe, other fragile belongings. Esther's hands trembled as she produced the familiar porch photograph. Aaron, Miriam, 5 smiling children framed by sunshine and laundry flapping on a long-vanished morning. She held it up beside the artifacts. It's them, she whispered. My son. My grandchildren. Silence fell, heavy and reverent. Years of not knowing, the hope, the guilt, the unanswered questions, all collapsed into a single brutal certainty. It was awful, yet it was also a strange kind of relief. No more wondering if Aaron had chosen to leave, no more doubt that the family might be alive elsewhere. They'll have a proper resting place, Levi said softly. We'll bring them home, to our cemetery, among our people. Esther nodded through tears, carefully returning the photo to her bag. Grief washed over them, but beneath it stirred the first faint current of peace. After 10 long years, Aaron's family had been found at last.